we go. Okay, so today we are here discussing your recordings for standards 4 and 5. So content knowledge is 4, and 5 is application of content. So 4 I thought was pretty strong. Overall, I thought you demonstrated mastery of the content. You know how to teach. You know what you are teaching. You know your subject area. The resources were appropriate. I think the concepts were attainable for the students. You had good explanations. You were able to create some meaningful connections to what they already know and examples of their own lives, like the pronouns and the sentences. Perhaps a little bit more explaining of why it's important to use complex sentences versus just simple sentences, like what their purpose is. Let's see. Okay, you acknowledged that there was a need to revisit the pronouns, and you went back to that, and also I think you acknowledged that they weren't super clear yet on like verbs and different parts of speech. So I noticed that you spent some time, you had each student give you an example of a different verb, which I thought that was well done, because they know it, but they don't know that they know it.
So I did a more extensive explanation the next day when I was introducing the conectores.
Yeah.
Los conectores. So then I made that whole explanation of why it's important to use them.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, and then, okay, so on to 5. I think there's a little bit more room for growth in 5. So here, and I don't know if it's in 4 and 5, where you're using technology, and you had things up on the board, and the students had their packets to follow along. I know that the pronouns wasn't in that initially. So I think like maybe you could have given them a capture sheet so that they could jot down the pronouns, because for some of them this is a brand new concept, and I think that they would have been able to synthesize that a little bit better.
Yeah. I probably didn't include it because that was not part of the lesson. I was just doing something extra to be sure that they knew the pronouns and the verbs on a sentence, since they were not with me the first semester.
Yeah.
So I thought that was appropriate review.
Okay. An idea that I had, because it was sort of a little supplementary thing, maybe like a pre-assessment, like a Kahoot, or some other kind of pre-assessment to get them, rather than teaching them and reviewing orally, get them to show what they already know in a way that's a little bit more engaging. So that's...
I did give them a Kahoot the next day.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, I did.
I love Kahoots.
They do.
So in 5, one that stood out to me was like, how are they applying what they're learning? So that was a question that I had. Like in the critical thinking.
So the applying, isn't it in the sentences that like completing? First of all, I gave them half of one sentence and then they complete, and then they have to write. So aren't they applying there what they
are, but you kind of want to extend it beyond that practice. So that's their objective. They're meeting the objective of writing the sentences, the simple and the compound, but how can that translate to like a real world situation? So maybe, and I'd had like an idea where they could do critical thinking, maybe looking at like a kid's book that's written very simply, and then maybe have them work on improving it and making it more appropriate for like their age level, using the compound sentences, expanding it. So it's basically applying that knowledge. They learned it, great. So how are they going to apply it in some other real world situation and use it to expand on critical thinking? You did good with the thumbs up and thumbs down, whether they thought that they had it yet or not. And not related to these, but it was equitable to go and each person gave a verb, but I did notice and some of the others where you just made like general questions, a lot of the same students were answering. So again, we want to try to use like calling cards or sticks, and try to give more opportunity to like the kids who aren't naturally going to raise their hand or call out, and just try to get a little bit more engagement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
But overall, I think it went pretty well.
Thank you.